Start again. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. Got a brand new video to share with you guys today. We're going to discuss some of the best possible plays for us, and there's quite a bit of them, but I'm only going to discuss 3 possible plays for us. Week 6 of the NFL in the receivers position. But before I get started with the video, like always, man, drop a like. If you're new to the channel and have not subscribed yet, please do so down below. Put on your post notifications. Become a part of the family. I put out 5, possibly 6 videos a week plus a live show for the NFL during the course of the NFL season, and for the entirety of the NFL season, that information is going to come to you on a regular basis. And of course, we will be conducting NBA videos for every slate. On top of that, 4 live shows per week, 1 hour before lock. So a lot of information, a lot of great content coming your way for all you DFS, NFL, and NBA players. So if you haven't become a part of the community yet, please do so down below. Subscribe, put on those post notifications. This way you do not miss any of that content. All right, receivers this week. After looking at this really closely last night, man, I really like some of the receivers here, not only at the top, but also that mid-tier range. There's some great plays at about 6,700, 6,800 down to about 6,200. A lot of fine plays there. You can actually I can see where you can actually pay down a receiver just a little bit this week, get maybe 2 quality guys there, and be able to pay up for 1 stud and still be able to pay up for 1 stud running back, or even may go with a top-of-the-line tight end this week that's in a favorable matchup. But I definitely love some of the plays here. So let's go through them, man. We got Antonio Brown. Obviously, he's in a great play, great situation, going up against Cincinnati. They've had great success against Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, as well as at Cincinnati. I would think he's going to get targeted quite a bit. He had a big game last week. So I expect Big Ben and them to really try to go out there and make this a shootout with Cincinnati. Just like Cincinnati, obviously I always like the teams at home, and we don't favor too much Big Ben on the road. He's definitely much better in Pittsburgh. But Antonio Brown, there should be some exposure to him, definitely. He's 9,100. DeAndre Hopkins, definitely in a good spot at home versus Buffalo. I think he's definitely a viable option here. A.J. Green, same matchup against Antonio Brown in Cincinnati, in Cincinnati at home. I definitely think he's in play. This is a big game for Cincinnati. I will definitely have some exposure to A.J. Green. I'm not going to discuss him right now, but I definitely like the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game, and I definitely like A.J. Green. Adam Thielen, as you know, I gave you guys Kirk Cousins this week as well. You know Adam Thielen is in play for me this week. I'm going to have some exposure to Adam Thielen as well as Stephon Diggs. I may pair them up in a lineup with the correlation. Obviously, I love the quarterback with receiver correlation as opposed to running back. Sometimes I do have a team stack with 2 receivers and a quarterback, and sometimes I go receiver, running back, and quarterback, especially if they're dual threat quarterbacks and dual threat running backs. I definitely favor that a lot more. So Adam Thielen is definitely in play. He gets a ton of targets. Obviously, he's in a good spot at Arizona. I love the fact that they are at home. They definitely need to play better. He had a good game last week. Cousins had a good game. He just needs to get the ball in the end zone. So I definitely like Adam Thielen. The first guy I'm going to discuss that I really love this week is Julio Jones. I'm going to have I'm going to definitely make a lot of lineups with Julio Jones in it. JJ, definitely love him in this spot here. He's 8,500 on Fanduel, 7,900 on DK. I think he's fine in either one of the platforms. He's the 3rd leading receiver in yardage-wise in the NFL thus far this year. He's gotten a number of targets, 55, which is not too bad, but his catch percentage has not been that great. 34 receptions, 564 yards so far this year. He's averaging, as you can see here, 112.8 yards per game, which I really do love. He's had 2 100-yard games, as you can see, 173 and 169. I also love that he has had 16.6 yards per catch, which is 12th best in the NFL right now as far as the receiver is concerned. And that's great due to the fact that he's only had 34 receptions. He's averaging more yards per catch than guys like Thomas, Thielen, that have all those receptions, but they have 10 or 11 or 12 yards per catch, and he's doing that all on those 34 receptions. So he could be very explosive. That tells you that he can be very explosive when he has the ball. He could get 16 yards or better per catch. He's also had 7 20-plus receptions thus far this year. He's also had a 58-yarder, and like I said already, he's had 2 100-plus yard games. He's averaging 14.9 fantasy points per game. We know that he's a 20-plus kind of guy. He's capable of it. He did have a 21 spot 2 weeks ago against Cincinnati. I definitely feel that he's going to be in a great spot here to get 20 or better this week against Tampa Bay. I would definitely, his floor is what, if you want to consider it, 8-9 and 8-7, so you figure 9. So he has a 9. He has his floor as far as fantasy points, because I gauge it that way. It was only a 9 thus far after 5 games. But he has the capabilities of getting you 21, as you can see, or better. And I know he's capable of it, and he is going to be able to do that this week. When we got Tampa Bay, he's going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is 29th in pass defense this year, 358 yards per game given up to the opponents. They've given up 13 TDs. That is tied with Pittsburgh for the most touchdowns to the opposition thus far this year. Wide receivers, personally, just directly wide receivers are putting up 742 yards against them this year. 9 out of those 13 TDs have been by the receivers. They're averaging 185.5 yards per game against them, giving up 51.5 DK points and 41.7 Fanduel points. That's the second most in the NFL as far as fantasy points. So you know we have to attack Tampa Bay. In the red zone, Tampa Bay has not been really good at all, and obviously protecting the red zone. 92.3% conversion ratio for the opposition. 3.5 opportunities per game, and they're getting in there 3 times with 3 touchdowns. Granted, Atlanta in the red zone, they've had a little bit of their issues. They're still converting at 65%, having 4 opportunities per game, only averaging 2 TDs and a field goal. But I think they're in a favorable position here, and they're in a great opportunity, great spot to put up 3 touchdowns or better in this game. I really, truly believe they're going to do that. If they want to keep their season alive, they definitely need a big win here, just like Pittsburgh needed one last week against them. They need one this week against Tampa Bay. All right. And another reason why I love the whole matchup, look what Tampa Bay has done over the course of this season against opposition. The opposition quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, threw for 354 yards and 6 TDs just their last game. Mr. Cohen, the receiver, 7 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown for Chicago. You had Roethlisberger throw for 353 and 3 TDs. Juju had 9 receptions, 116 yards in that game from Big Ben. Nick Foles threw for 334 yards and 1 TD. And then Breeze in the first game of the season, 439 yards and 3 touchdowns. 16 receptions to Michael Thomas for 180 yards and a touchdown. So everything is looking like and is leaning towards a shootout, and Atlanta putting up at least 3 or 4 touchdowns against this team. So I love Mr. Mr. Julio Jones in his matchup. We go down a little bit further. Obviously, I told you I love Stephon Diggs for Minnesota this week. Mike Evans is a viable play. I definitely like him. I'm going to have some exposure because, like I said, I gave you yesterday in the quarterbacks. I love Jameis Winston. He's in the same matchup here against Atlanta. He has an opportunity to put up big points. I think he's going to be able to do that. Tampa Bay is going to at least keep up in this game. They're going to need to because their run game is truly just horrible. You know, they don't have a good run game at all. Their team is based off passing offense, and we expect Jameis to use his wheels, extend plays, and be able to go out downfield and try to hit guys like Mike Evans. But I'm going to stay here in this Tampa Bay game. I definitely like Mike Evans. I will have some exposure to him, but I'm willing to pay down from $8,000 for Mike Evans and take his teammate, Deshaun Jackson. I like Deshaun Jackson, big playmaker. You know, he's capable of catching the ball for 10, 15 yards and making it 30, 40, 50 yards. And that's the big thing about Deshaun Jackson. Granted, not a whole lot of targets, but the catch percentage is there. As you can see, 5 of 5, 4 of 4, 5 of 3, and 8 of 5. He's had 3 100-yard games. He's averaging 106 yards per game with 3 touchdowns, 17.2 fantasy points per game. His floor figure right now, 5. But overall, he's averaging 17. He's capable of getting you 20. He can get you as high as 29. He already has done that against New Orleans. Granted, these 2 big games were with Fitzpatrick as his quarterback. And I know that Mr. Watson definitely has a better connection with Mike Evans. But I can see where Mike Evans is probably going to be neutralized a little bit. It's going to be shadowed a little bit more on the field. And I can see that opening up the doors for Mr. Jackson, who's a big playmaker, or maybe even Chris Godwin. You can consider Godwin. You can consider even Mr. Humphreys in this game. I love all the Tampa Bay receivers. I just feel that the big playmaking ability is Deshaun Jackson, and he's shown that already with 3 100-yard games. So I love the whole idea. He doesn't get a ton of snaps. He's at 52% of the snaps thus far this year, and he doesn't have much red zone opportunities at all. So it's those are the little downfalls. But again, with Deshaun Jackson, you don't need him to be in the red zone. He can catch the ball in the 40 and take it all the way in the hole. That's the big difference here. That's why he doesn't have those, and even though he still has 3 touchdowns. These 3 touchdowns did not come in the red zone. They came because he was able to catch the ball beyond the red zone, 30, 40-yard line, and take it to the house. All right, so that's the beauty of it, and that's what I like most about Deshaun Jackson. Going up against Atlanta, pass defense we know is not that good. 24th in the league, 277 yards per game. Tampa Bay's offense is 12th in NFL, averaging 363 yards per game, and we know a bulk of that comes from Deshaun Jackson. Atlanta's coughed up 12 TDs. Versus wide receivers, they've given up 821 yards thus far this year. That averages out to 164.2 yards per game. 10 touchdowns. Out of the 12, they've given up 10 to the receivers. That's the second most in the NFL as far as 12 touchdowns. They have given up 45 DK points and 36.5 Fanduel points. That's sixth most in the NFL. So I love the whole idea. Atlanta in the red zone, their opponents have been averaging almost 81% success in the red zone when they get there. 4 opportunities per game, which is quite a bit they're giving up to opponents. 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal. Tampa Bay in the red zone as an offense, 50%. They need to improve. They definitely need to capitalize in this game. And considering that Atlanta is coughing up 81% of the time in the red zone, they just need to get in there. But then again, if they get a couple big plays by Deshaun Jackson outside that 20-yard line, outside of the red zone, he is capable of taking it in the end zone from 30, 40, 50 yards easily. 50% percentage for Tampa Bay in the red zone, 3.5 opportunities per game. So that means they are getting there. They just not been getting it in the end zone. 1 TD and 1 field goal in those opportunities. So again, I love Deshaun Jackson here, man. Everything is in the making here for this to be an explosive, high-scoring game, an opportunity for both sides of the ball, a lot of fantasy points. As you can see, just the fantasy points given up by teams, 45 and 50. That's a lot of fantasy points. That's what I discussed about 2 weeks ago on the wide receiver video, where I say I love to gauge the wide receivers simply because there is so much fantasy points that can be actually accumulated when you have a good wide receiver who is able to put up big points and you have a quarterback that's able to get him the football. It leads me to my third receiver, man. And again, there's a lot of guys I love here, man. Just to really go and recap real quick. I mean, Robert Woods, good spot here, 7,300, especially if Cooks. And I had Cooks last week and Kupp, like I discussed in an earlier video, and it hurt me last week. They both went down with concussion protocol. These guys is Wednesday today. We'll see how it goes the next day or two. If either one of these two do not play, there's definitely going to be more targets sent to Mr. Woods' way. If they're both out, that's going to definitely improve everything as far as value, because definitely then you could pay up for Todd Gurley, who's going to get definitely some touches and is going to get some targets, and then you're going to also be able to target Robert Woods, because they're going to be the brunt of the offense there for sure for the Rams. But if any one of these play, if one of them passes protocol and they play, then I would consider either one of the two in this matchup with Robert Woods. You could then team them up with Goff, Kupp, Woods, or you can go the other way, Cooks and Woods. But I would say if they're both out, I definitely would love some Woods with Mr. Gurley. I think that would be a great play. Obviously, Ridley in the same matchup with Tampa Bay is definitely in play. My next guy that I love Tyler Lockett here. I think he's definitely someone who's going to consider. I'm going to have some exposure to him. I probably will discuss him a little bit more on Saturday night on the live show, but I love the way he's been playing. He doesn't get a whole ton of targets, but he's very efficient, similar to to Deshaun Jackson, so far for Seattle. He's building a nice connection with Russell Wilson, and they're going up favorable matchup against Oakland, and Oakland, who is not that good defensively against the pass. I mentioned Deshaun Jackson already. My next and third guy is Tyler Boyd, man. I got to have some exposure to that Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game, and I love Tyler Boyd. Even though I did not take Andy Dalton, I will probably sprinkle Andy Dalton in one of my lineups, because I usually do 9 to 10 lineups for the main slate. So I'm going to definitely try to figure in how to get Tyler Boyd with Mr. Dalton. But if I don't go with Dalton at all, I'm going to sprinkle Tyler Boyd in my lineups, probably more than 5 or 6 of those lineups. I really do love him in this matchup, because I can see where A.J. Green is going to do well, but I can see both of them doing well against Pittsburgh. And I can also see where A.J. Green may be neutralized a little bit, because he's the big-time player there. And then maybe Mr. Tyler Boyd will get more opportunities. We will wait and see, but I do believe he's going to get 8 or more targets for sure in this game. Tyler Boyd, 6,300, pretty much the same price as last week, if I remember correctly, here on FanDuel. He's $6K on DraftKings. I think in either one of the two sites, I think that's favorable. I'm okay with him at $6K on DK. 43 targets thus far this year, 30 receptions, 393 yards. He's averaging 13.1 yards per catch, 78.6 yards per game, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 13.4 fantasy points. He is capable of getting you 22. Yeah, his floor is about 4 or 5, maybe 6. but I don't expect him to get 4, 5, or 6 here. He did get 7 targets last week against Miami. Only had 4 receptions for 44 yards. We need him to get in the end zone, and I love the fact that he's one of those receivers that Andy Dalton definitely does target. He is a receiver that is targeted in the red zone, and that I definitely like, and that's an upside because obviously you can always get 10, 12, 13 points, but when you get a touchdown, you're getting 6 more points, and that automatically brings up your fantasy points up sky high. And if he can get more than 1, that'll be awesome. And I think that he has a possibility and an opportunity for that to happen here, to at least get a touchdown in this game and get anywhere between 17 to as many as 20, 22 fantasy points in this game. I can see it happen. He's had 2 100-yard games, as you can see there. He had one here for about 91 yards, which is a big game. He's averaging about 9 targets per game, and he's also had 7 20-plus yard receptions thus far this year. And the other thing that I love that I took a look at, he has been in on 80% of the snaps on average throughout every game this season. So he is definitely involved in his offense on a regular basis. He's also, like I mentioned, he is capable of being a big target in the red zone. He has been one of those guys that Andy Dalton has been targeting. He has had 5 targets, 100% catch percentage in the red zone, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 41 yards, 1 touchdown. We'll love to see that turn over to a few more. I think that there's a possibility and an opportunity, like I said already, in this game for him to get more opportunities in the red zone. Pittsburgh, 30th in pass defense, 296 yards per game, giving up 13 touchdowns thus far this year. That's tied for most in the NFL with Tampa Bay. Cincinnati's pass offense comes in there 15th, middle of the pack, slightly a little bit better than middle of the pack, 272 yards per game. They have put in 12 TDs. 12 TDs offensively is the 3rd best in the NFL. The wide receivers have totaled up 1,081 yards thus far against Pittsburgh's defense. 8 touchdowns. So out of the 13, 8 of them have come to the receivers. Obviously, the remainers have come from the backfield from running backs. They have coughed up 47.8 DK points and 38.1 Fanduel points to receivers thus far this year. In the red zone, Pittsburgh is not too bad. 52.6% the opponents. As far as the opponents getting in the red zone, 3.5 opportunities per game and scoring 2 touchdowns. Cincinnati's offense has a 71.5% conversion ratio in the red zone, getting 3.5 opportunities a game and scoring at least 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal. So they've done well when they've been in the red zone, and obviously we definitely need them to be able to do the same thing again in this game. Again, like I said, this is a big game for Cincinnati. If they were to pull this game out, they'll go to 5-1, I believe it is, and there will be 3 games ahead of Pittsburgh, and that is big. Pittsburgh has been their nemesis for years. Every time they've made the playoffs or have been battling there for the division, the team that they lose to is Pittsburgh. So this is a good way to not only just put Pittsburgh in really in the brink of possibly saying to themselves, wow, we're not going to be able to catch up. Now, granted, they're going to keep battling. But again, this is a big game for both teams. Pittsburgh doesn't want to fall 3 games back to Cincinnati. Cincinnati will love to win this game at home and put Pittsburgh in that position. So I think this is going to be all out battle. It's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a great game to watch. And I believe that A.J. Green, if you're not going to have exposure to Tyler Boyd and pay $6,300, then pay up to $8,800 and get A.J. Green. I think he's going to be fantastic in this game. And again, if you want to target this game as a game stack, it's a great game to target. I think both teams on both sides of the ball, like I always like to see, both sides of the ball, you have advantages of having some offensive players that are key players and are going to get targets. And then we know that they are integral parts of their offense, and they need to be involved. So when you have that, you have really the right mix of getting a game stack together, especially if you can put those numbers together. And this, again, this is a great spot for Tyler Boyd. I really love him there. So those are the 3 I'm going to share with you. I really love a lot of guys. I'm going to definitely touch upon a few more on the live show. Obviously, like I said, definitely love Tyler Lockett. I mean, Devin Funchess is in a good spot here against Washington. They definitely need a win there. Like I said, Tampa Bay guys, I definitely still think Chris Godwin is someone to consider. Sanu is in the same spot with Atlanta. You come down a little further here. Moncrief for Jacksonville is a good spot. Matavius Bryant seems to be someone that Mr. Carr is throwing to. He's getting big chunks of yardage per catch. Definitely someone to consider. Again, here, Chicago and Miami. Tyler Gabriel is a good spot. Robbie Anderson here, who's one of the top guys as well as far as getting those deep balls. I think I've seen Robbie. He's up there, man. He's definitely up there. Again, it's a lot of good possible plays here in the 5 all the way to about $6,600, $6,700 this week in the receiving spot. I think there's a lot of great plays, man. But we'll touch upon some more. I mean, I could be here forever. I could definitely give you 6, easily 7 good plays this week. But I have to narrow it down. I gave you 3. I think those 3 are pretty solid. That may change by the end of the week, so that's why it's important to come to the live show, because at the live show, that's first thing that I basically discuss is injury report and any changes that I may have made in the lineup. Let you know if I'm going to keep the guys that I mentioned, add anybody else to that mix, or possibly remove somebody and add someone different. So anything can happen from here to Saturday. But again, make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Come down to the live show so you can see what we finish up with at the end of the week. But I basically feel that those are the best possible plays as of right now for me that I'm going to have the most exposure to, and they're going to be a lot. They're going to be several more as well. So again, guys, man, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Join the freaking community. Come on down Saturday night. Let's discuss the slate even further. From here to then, I'll see you. The next video will be the tight end video with the defense. That'll be coming up later on today. So for now, I bid you a farewell.